Madison not here? Madison?
I'll continue. I appreciate what you did and all that, but you're taking away from my playing time. You know, 'cause I got to just so you can go do some assembly.
See you at 8:20.
Just so you can go do some assembly.
On your feet.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of stop. Students, don't forget, we are still doing the can drive. Bring your canned goods in to first block. Also, inside is December the 1st. Everyone have a great day.
So the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. What is notable about that? Veterans Day is what you guys call it today, but in 1918, what happened on the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month? I see Jackson's hand.
Signing the Treaty of Versailles.
Not quite. The Treaty of Versailles is what ended the war, but on the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month, we have an armistice, which is a laying down of the weapons, leads to the peace treaty. But the armistice officially goes into effect, effectively ending World War I, which is known as the Great War or the war to end all wars, but did it?
No.
Yeah, by the very nature of it being called World War I, and we know there's a World War II, we know that it did not end all wars like many people thought it would. Now, the 11th day, it's the 11th day of the month, the 11th hour, that's 11 a.m., the 11th month, that's November. November 11th at 11 a.m., 1918 is when the guns fell silent on the Western Front. And would you believe it, we have primary source audio of that moment. Jordan, will you get the lights for me? The volume's pretty good on this video. Now, it's not roaring loud, but it's pretty good. What you are about to hear is 10:59 a.m. until 11. Tell me what you notice at the moment of 11 a.m. This is the moment the guns went silent in the war to end all wars. How long did they fire? How long did they fire?
Oh, wow.
Up until the very last minute. Men died in the last hour of the war. Men died in the last minute of the war. And as history looks back on it now, we see what a great waste and loss of life in the last hour of a war that all people knew was coming to an end. This agreement, 11th day, 11th hour, 11th month, this had been determined the day before. So in that last 24-hour period, some along the lines, along the trenches, and we're a step before World War I, but I'm telling you this today, so when we get to World War I next week, you'll kind of have that pre-understanding. Some places along the trenches, men hunkered down. Their officers said, hey, let's just hang in there for 24 more hours, the war's almost over. Other places along the trenches, some Western European countries, France, Great Britain, they wanted to punish the Germans. The Germans had started the war. The Germans had greatly harmed them. They said, we got one more day to punish the Germans. So they initiated assaults. They initiated attacks to kill as many Germans as they could in the last 24 hours. Other men, this is the selfish nature of humankind, other men saw it as a last chance to win glory, especially a lot of officers, captains, majors, colonels. They said, I will lead this last great assault, and when the war is over, they'll promote me, and I'll be remembered in history. So people approached the end of the war very differently. But what you just heard, I think it's amazing that this audio exists. It's the moment that the guns went silent. And we will talk a lot more about trench warfare and all of World War I come next week. Now, like Jackson led us to, this is called Armistice Day. Armistice is a laying down of the arms. It wasn't a full-on peace treaty. That still had to be worked out. But this was the agreement to lay down our arms, to not fight anymore while that peace treaty gets worked out. You guys today know it as Veterans Day. Veterans Day was this day, November 11th, was initially called Armistice Day. As early as 1919, the president of the country, Woodrow Wilson, he signs that this is a day to remember the Great War, the war to end all wars, on the day of its ending, the anniversary of its ending. So it's called Armistice Day all the way up until 1954. 1954, it gets renamed Veterans Day, kind of expanding the amount of people that we're honoring, right? 1950, instead of just remembering the Great War and World War I veterans, we are now recognizing all veterans on November 11th. This is what we do. It's a federal holiday. A lot of people will get Friday off because federal employees, we get Friday off in recognition of the holiday. In this building, we have some military veterans. Can you name some?
You.
Thank you, other than myself. Anyone?
Mr. Turner.
Not Mr. Turner.
Coach Gay.
Coach Gay is correct. And how about right next door? Anybody know who's right next door to us?
Coach Turner.
Other next door. Mr. Mosley. This is Mr. Mosley, who has a white beard today. This is Mr. Mosley. He's in the Marine Corps.
He's looking good.
And you mentioned Coach Gay. That's Greg Gay, hoorah, United States Marine Corps. And then, sure. That's a public picture. Softball girls always have fun with Coach Gay's picture. And then myself. Yes, I served active duty, and I continue to serve in the Georgia National Guard. I don't know what happened, Delaney. You know what? Last week I got told like I used to work out. Anyway, moving on. I want to point out that families also serve. This is a picture of my family. This is kind of one of the last pictures we took on active duty. This is my last month of active duty at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So don't forget, on this Veterans Day, right, as all the kind of praise and thanks is given to the veterans, the people who serve, don't forget that their families serve as well. Wives make sacrifices. Husbands make sacrifices if the mom or the wife is the one serving. Children certainly make sacrifices, and military kids are a special breed. My kids moved 4 times in 5 years. We did not have Christmas at the same house 2 years in a row until we moved to Alma. For real, we did not have Christmas in the same house 2 years in a row because we kept moving. The military kept moving us. What's that?
The leg.
Oh, what happened to Mason's leg? She had a rolled ankle. She had a broke ankle at that point. Sorry.
Wait, so what were you doing at that?
At this moment right here, I was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We had just done a parachute jump. So an hour or so before that, I jumped out of an airplane. And then it was sometimes families can come and observe training. My family was there. And, once I got my parachute off and all that kind of stuff, I saw them. So that's what I was doing right there. Briefly, so I'm about to cut out to the elementary school for the Veterans Day breakfast. But I just want to give you some thoughts on Veterans Day before I do that. Veterans Day initially being called Armistice Day. Remember, it's a recognition of those who died in the Great War, the war to end all wars. There's this beautiful poem called In Flanders Field. It was written by a World War I doctor. And what he is saying is that the red poppies that popped up on the battlefield, it was almost like there's beauty amidst the destruction. And Flanders is a particular region where these poppies were really prevalent. So he writes this poem. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but he writes this poem about the beauty amidst the death and the destruction. And because of that, the red poppy has become kind of iconic as a symbol for Veterans Day. And it's not as popular in the United States, but if you were to go to what's called the Commonwealth countries, England, Australia, New Zealand, those former British colonies, the poppy is a very popular symbol on Veterans Day. They don't call it Veterans Day the same way we do. They call it Remembrance Day. But they were involved in the war as well. So November 11th has meaning to the Commonwealth countries as well. And the poppy and the phrase, lest we forget, is very popular on Veterans Day, very meaningful on Veterans Day. Video I won't show you there. I want to talk briefly about this. A lot of veterans get this stigma of post-traumatic stress disorder, or you guys might know it as PTSD, right? Heard this phrase before, PTSD? Sometimes, this is a negative stereotype, sometimes veterans are seen as broken or maybe even dangerous, right? Ooh, they saw something in the war that changed them. Here's what I want to offer you. Post-traumatic stress is a real thing, but I think we should take away the D. I don't think it's a disorder. Post-traumatic stress means you experienced something, it affected you, you were stressed, and you're working through that. But I don't think there's a D there. I don't think it's a disorder. So I would offer to you, young people, whether it's your aunts, uncles, parents, grandparents who have served, and maybe they have experienced some stress. Maybe they are dealing with some trauma. But I would offer to you that there's no D. It's not a disorder, and I would wish you to not approach them as someone who's broken, hurt, or dangerous, but someone who's working through some post-traumatic stress. One more thing you guys may see in and around town, you may see the veteran black hat. I got mine right here, Afghanistan veteran, right? I can't explain it. I don't know why it's black. I don't know why the letters are yellow. It's just a thing. You see on the screen there, Vietnam, World War II, Korea. If you see someone in and around town with this black hat, I would offer to you, I would ask of you, go up, shake their hand, tell them thank you, and thank you for your service. That's a fair statement to make. That's something a lot of people say, thank you for your service. But you know what happens too much? Thank you for your service. And I run away or I go on about my day. Here's what I would ask you to do. And I know we all have busy lives and maybe it's a situation where you don't have time, whatever. Say thank you for your service, but then ask them for a life lesson. Ask them for a story. What did your service teach you? What can your service teach me? Can you teach me something real quick? And a lot of times, now some people, they may not be interested in talking about their war experiences. A lot of times someone wearing a hat like this, proud of their service, is willing to talk. And you know what? They got a lot of stories to tell. Whether it's at the VFW, what's the other one? VFW and the Legion, right? VFW or the Legion, or just in and around town. Man, when we go to Boat Rights Buffet on Sundays, I see veterans with these hats all the time. Engage them, talk to them, especially in a small town like Alma. You might even know them. Ask them for a story. What can they possibly teach you? Maybe sit down and buy them a cup of coffee and grow from that experience. So that is my challenge to you, a lifelong challenge. Thank you for your service is nice, but ask how that person could teach you something, and maybe you have an opportunity to learn from them. Because I want you to remember, you might see an old, hurt back, broken knees individual. Maybe the person has a walker or a cane, but I want you to know that that old man in town with that black Vietnam veteran hat on, he was once more bad than you will ever be, right? This is that generation.
Is he smoking a
They might be hurt. They might be old. They might be broken now, but this is who they used to be. It's one of my favorite Veterans Days experiences I got to share with the high school before I was a high school teacher. And what we have here is a World War II veteran. He's got his black hat. And then myself, I served in Afghanistan. And I just think about the years between us, but we are connected through the common thread of service. And that's just one of my, meeting a World War II veteran like that, and you know what? They're getting older and they are passing away. So it's a real honor to meet this man who served in World War II, and I'm just really gripped by the connection of service between us. Final thought before I have to go. If you want to really thank a soldier, if you want to thank a veteran, then be the kind of American worth fighting for. Right? How can I thank you enough? How can I give back to a soldier or a veteran? Be that kind of American worth fighting for. You know what? That doesn't mean you have to serve yourself in uniform. You can serve in a lot of ways. You can serve in your community. You can serve in your household. You can be an artist or a doctor or an educator or just a dirty work employee, right? Micro style. You can serve your country in a lot of ways. So it does not have to be in uniform, but what I'd ask of you is to be the kind of American worth fighting for, worth the service that so many veterans give to you anyway. So today, November 11th, the 11th day, the 11th hour of the 11th month, maybe 11 o'clock will mean something to you today. I hope you'll think of the whole package of Veterans Day, everything I just said to you. Maybe you'll call up a relative who is a veteran and you'll thank them with a different perspective. Or you can just have a conversation with your parents about what Veterans Day means, what you learned in class, and maybe how you can be different going forward as well. We do have a very awesome Veterans Plaza right here in Alma, right next to what favorite restaurant? Fast food joint? Yeah, Dairy Queen. Go to that place where there's the helicopter, there's a couple of granite stones. I would challenge you to go there and see if you have any kin, see if you can recognize any names. We've got two. I know two Hollands that are on that wall, Uncle Jerry and Uncle Roger. And I bet you've got some kin in there as well. If you've been around Alma at all, if your family's been around Alma for any amount of time, I bet you've got some kin whose names are on that wall. It's a wall not of people who died, but of people who served. So it doesn't have to be someone who passed away to have their name on those stones. So I would just, I don't know. I don't know the most recent. I do know Coach Gay's name is on there. So that his service was in the 90s. So when they built the thing, it goes back at least to the point of Coach Gay's name being on there. I don't know how they put new names on there. That'd be a pretty cool thing to ask. What if this generation serves? Should their name be on that memorial? I definitely think so.
Is your name on there?
I'm not Alma native. My name's not on there. No. Good question.
Where you native?
So here's what here's my last challenge before I do have to get going. Next time you're at Dairy Queen, maybe get your blizzard, just walk across the street, go check out that memorial, go see what you think about it. Read some of the etchings, and just kind of reflect about service and those who've already given so much to their country. So, what was your last question, Eric?
I said, oh, where you from?
I'm from Oklahoma. Really? Oklahoma. We're not established that yet. I'm from Oklahoma. I grew up in Oklahoma. And that is where I'm from. Here's what I'm going to do for you guys now, because I'm about to cut out.